48 hours. That's all it will take to change the future of the British royal family forever. As King Charles III lands in Washington, a silent war with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle is reaching its breaking point. Stop scrolling right now, because what you are about to hear is the moment royal watchers across 2 continents have been waiting almost 6 years to see. And it just happened in the past 48 hours. King Charles, the cancer-stricken monarch who has spent his entire reign trying to play peacemaker, has finally slammed the door in the faces of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. No more invitations. No more olive branches. No more pretending the family is one big, happy unit. The Sandringham invitation is dead, and the reason why is going to leave your jaw on the floor. Picture this for a second: the cold stone walls of Buckingham Palace. The king at his desk in the early morning light, a stack of newspapers piled in front of him, each one carrying a fresh humiliation served up by his own son. Australia, Ukraine, Washington, the internet. Page after page of attacks on a man who is currently undergoing brutal cancer treatment. And then, the moment of decision. The moment Charles, perhaps for the first time in his entire reign, looks up and says, "Enough." Stay close, because by the end of the next several minutes, you will understand exactly why this withdrawal of the Sandringham invitation is the single most important royal news story of the year, and why it sets the stage for an absolutely explosive state visit to America next week. You will not get this analysis anywhere else. Understand something before going any further: this is not a small story. This is not a polite little royal squabble. This is the largest, most consequential family rupture inside the House of Windsor since the Abdication Crisis of 1936. And the man pulling the trigger this time is not a brash young royal in love with an American divorcee. The man pulling the trigger is the king himself. A father, a grandfather, a monarch in the twilight of his reign, finally refusing to keep playing a game that was destroying him from the inside out. So, buckle in. Every single layer of this story is about to be peeled back. Well-placed royal sources are now reporting that the monarch has formally withdrawn his invitation for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to come to Sandringham over the summer. And the reason being whispered through the corridors is jaw-dropping in its directness. The withdrawal is a response to what insiders are now openly calling the Australia Trauma Tour. Yes, the disastrous, vanity-driven, pseudo-royal tour of Australia. The one that played out across television screens like a public relations train wreck has finally pushed King Charles past his breaking point. Now think for a moment about why this matters so much. 4 months on end, the courtiers around King Charles have been quietly briefing the British press with the same soothing line. "Oh no," they kept saying. "We are not going to punish them. We do not want to upset them. The titles are not going to be touched. Their place in the line of succession is not going to be removed. We must keep the door open," they would say. "We must keep the family together," they would say. And every single time those statements appeared in print, you could practically hear royal historians shaking their heads, from London to New York. "No, you have got to do something because this is getting worse, not better." They are not learning. They are not softening. They are not coming home. They are embarrassing the king in Ukraine. They are embarrassing the king in Washington. They are embarrassing the king on the internet. They are embarrassing the king on every single continent they touch. And while the rest of the royal family is actually coming through this whole turbulent series of events looking remarkably strong, with Prince William rising into his future role with confidence, and Princess Catherine emerging as the modern queen the country needs, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have positioned themselves as the constant, festering thorn in the side of the institution. If the king does not finally listen to Prince William, who has reportedly been pleading with his father privately for years to take stronger action, this thorn will keep digging deeper. So here is why this is significant news, pure and simple. The king has finally listened, and the receipts on this story are rock solid. A close friend of King Charles, speaking to royal correspondents in confidence, has revealed something brutal. The line is so sharp, it deserves to be read twice. The friend is reported to have said, "Charles will not invite them, especially not after their trip to Australia." And then, the line that should make every Sussex sympathizer sit up. Prince Harry, who likes to speak about anti-bullying, is seen as a bully inside the palace. Read that again. The man who has built an entire post-royal career on the rhetoric of anti-bullying, on the supposed gentle cultivation of mental health, on the soft, vulnerable side of modern masculinity, is privately viewed by the people who actually know him as a bully. A man who, when he does not get exactly what he wants, stamps his foot like a child. A man who not only does the thing he was always going to do, but then, this is the cruelest part, tries to emotionally blackmail his own father with his own children, Archie and Lilibet. Pause on that for a moment. Imagine being in your 70s. Imagine fighting an aggressive form of cancer. Imagine wanting nothing more in this life than to hold your grandchildren before the disease takes you. And imagine your son using those grandchildren as a bargaining chip. That is the picture being painted by the king's closest confidants. That is the man Prince Harry has become. But here is where it gets even more revealing. The same source also revealed that the invitation was already on shaky ground long before Australia. It was already, in their words, ill-advised, especially after the chairwoman of Centibale, Sophie Shandoka, sued Prince Harry for defamation. Yes, defamation. The man who claims to be the world's protector of African children was sued by the very chairwoman of his own charity, a charity established in the name of his own mother, Princess Diana. The trip to Australia was, as the source bluntly put it, the straw that broke the camel's back. The source ends with the most damning prediction of all. It would, they say, indeed make the king look very weak if he did have them at Sandringham this summer. And then, in a line that has set tongues wagging across both London and Montecito, the source adds, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will come, but it will not be at the king's invitation. We shall see. Translate that for yourself. The Sussexes are going to attempt to crash the holiday. They are going to manufacture some kind of pretext, some kind of media spectacle, to force their way into the royal narrative this summer. And the palace is bracing for it. Now consider the so-called invitation itself, because it was never really an invitation in the first place. Prince Harry, in his usual fashion, went to the media and dropped vague hints. We would entertain an invitation, he said. It would be lovely for our family to meet the king, he said. Soft, leading language, designed to manufacture pressure on a sick parent. And why does he want it so badly? Because if you are formally invited by the sitting monarch to a royal residence, you automatically receive state-funded security, which, conveniently, is the only thing Prince Harry actually cares about right now. Because his own funds, the inheritance from Princess Diana, are reportedly almost gone. He does not want to spend a single dollar of his own protecting his family. He wants the British taxpayer to do it. And then, the cherry on top. Prince Harry made the entire request conditional. He said it would depend on who else was there. Code for Prince William and Princess Catherine. As if a man who walked away from the institution gets to dictate the guest list of the head of state. It was, in plain language, blatant emotional blackmail, directed straight at the king. To the palace's credit, they did push back. They issued a statement, strongly worded by royal standards, saying the king would love to meet his grandchildren. King Charles, after all, has only ever met Lilibet for what insiders describe as a hot second. Archie, possibly twice in his entire life. The grief of that, for a grandfather staring down terminal illness, is unimaginable. But after Australia, no can do. And the reason cuts straight to the bone of why this could never have worked. Imagine, for a second, what would happen if Meghan Markle showed up at Sandringham wearing a beautiful dress. Within 24 hours, that exact dress would appear on a shopping website. What to wear to meet the in-laws. What to wear to a palace. What to wear when hanging out with your dreaded stepmother. It is insane. It is tacky. It cannot happen. The Sussexes have monetized every single human moment of their lives. The idea of letting them inside one of the most sacred royal residences during the most spiritually important season of the king's calendar, and watching that experience be turned into a shopping list within a single news cycle is genuinely too much for the institution to bear. And here is the deeper truth at the heart of this entire scandal. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have, at this exact moment in time, zero cash. Not in the United States. Not in the United Kingdom. Not anywhere on this planet. Their brand has collapsed. Their commercial deals are stalling. Their public approval has cratered. And in order to claw any of that influence back, they desperately need a fresh dusting of royal shine. They need to cover themselves in a little royal magic and let the world know they are once again on the inside. A Sandringham invitation would have provided exactly that pure, undiluted royal shine. And King Charles has finally refused to give it to them. Because, and this is the most chilling question of all, what happens the next time the palace inevitably upsets Prince Harry and Meghan Markle? Because that day is coming. It always comes. Do they go on CBS again? Do they sit down for another interview with a famous American host? Do they stage another Oprah Winfrey-style spectacle? Does Prince Harry, the man who has already published Spare, come out with another tell-all book? Does Meghan Markle? It is way too dangerous, way too ridiculous. After the trauma closet shopping website, after the disturbing pivot of selling the clothes worn during their most intimate royal moments for cash, the king has finally seen what most royal watchers saw years ago. There is no negotiation with people like this. There is only damage control. But hold on, because this is where the story gets even spicier. Prince Harry has already failed the test for the upcoming American state visit. Of course, if Prince Harry and Meghan Markle had any sense, and we already know they do not, they would simply keep quiet for 4 days. Just 4 days. 4 days of silence. 4 days of dignity. 4 days of allowing the king to do his job in peace. Surely, even they could manage that. Surely. But they could not. They simply could not. Because Prince Harry's visit to Ukraine and his shocking attack on Donald Trump and the entire American administration came literally, and this is verifiable across news networks, just 4 days before King Charles was set to touch down in Washington. That is the ultimate slight a son can deliver to his father. It is presented as proof, hard and undeniable, that this man is deeply troubled when it comes to his own father. Because in public, Prince Harry will quite happily perform the worried son routine. Remember last year after their meeting, he said, "Oh, I am just so worried about him. I need to spend my time." Remember the BBC interview where he suggested he was afraid his father might die before they could reconcile? That entire performance was about him. His feelings, his drama, his pain. But then, when it comes to something like the upcoming American state visit, a trip that is already incredibly stressful for a man undergoing cancer treatment, a trip for which King Charles is reportedly having to pause his treatment in order to travel, Prince Harry chose that exact moment to hijack the news cycle with a politically incendiary speech in Ukraine. Look at the itinerary. The king is facing 2 days in Washington, travel to New York, a massive day in New York, then a final day in Virginia, and after all that, a solo trip to Bermuda without Queen Camilla. This is a punishing schedule for a healthy man. For a king with cancer, it is borderline reckless. The one thing, the only thing, King Charles did not need was added stress caused by his youngest son. And this is precisely the point Prince William keeps making privately behind palace walls. Stress has a documented, medically proven role in how a person's body handles cancer. Stress is the silent enemy. Every spike of cortisol weakens the system. Every sleepless night makes treatment harder to bear. And Prince Harry, again and again, brings stress. Imagine the scene. King Charles, perhaps at Balmoral, preparing for his journey, opening his morning briefing and reading, "Harry has gone to Ukraine. Oh God, why now?" And then being handed the speech itself. A speech which veteran royal commentators have reported was at least partly written by artificial intelligence, attacking Donald Trump just days before King Charles is set to meet him face to face. That is stress. That is direct, calculated stress placed on the shoulders of a sick king by his own son. That is the picture being painted of someone who does not appear to consider the impact on his father. And here is a question worth sitting with. Would Prince Harry have even gone to Ukraine if Australia had gone better? It is a fascinating thought experiment. The Australia trip was, by many accounts, a disaster. The polls afterward were brutal. Post-Australia approval numbers dropped sharply. And Prince Harry, needing to regain public attention, shifted back into the spotlight. He needed to redirect the narrative. He needed visibility. And Ukraine, the world's most photographed conflict zone, gave him exactly that. The one thing the king and his courtiers have always told him is this: stop talking to the press. Stop manufacturing media, just stop. But Prince Harry cannot stop. His father will not pick up the phone, so he calls the Times, the Telegraph, or whatever American outlet will take his call that week. And it is the same playbook he used to manufacture the Sandringham invitation. He went public. The palace pushed back. They told him again, stop going to the press. Because they see the tactic for exactly what it is, a bullying tactic. And here is the supreme irony. The irony that has powered the sharpest royal reporting for years now. For all of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's talk about bullying, about anti-bullying campaigns, about how they were bullied by the institution and the press, every single former staff member who has ever worked for them tells the same private story. They are the bullies. They are the ones who terrorize their employees. They are the ones whose offices have a higher staff turnover than a fast food restaurant. Talk to anyone who has ever worked for them, the pattern is identical. The cold stare in public. The full evisceration in private. This brings us to a moment recently captured on camera, one that refuses to leave the public consciousness. It involved a small, easily missed exchange between Meghan Markle and Sarah Fosmo, Prince Harry's chief of staff. In a public clip, Meghan Markle delivered what can only be described as a chilling stare, a flash of cold, controlled fury directed at her own employee. To the casual viewer, it looked like nothing. A passing expression. But to anyone who has actually worked for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, that look is everything. That look is the warning shot before the private dressing down. That look is the prelude to being torn apart behind closed doors. Veteran royal reporting has revealed that the clip actually triggered something close to post-traumatic stress in former Sussex staff members. Imagine that. Former employees have described Meghan Markle, on the record, in deeply critical terms, alleging harsh workplace behavior and an environment of intense pressure. They describe a person who smiles at the public on one side, while appearing cold and severe towards staff behind the scenes. According to those accounts, people under her authority were often treated as disposable, like workers brought in temporarily and then discarded. And here is the irony, so sharp it could cut glass. Even a tradesperson fixing your home is treated with basic respect, because you need things to work. Yet, by these accounts, that basic rule of human interaction was often ignored. If you want things to function, if you want people around you to perform, you have to treat them well. There is a piece of dating advice that captures this perfectly: never date someone who is rude to service staff, because that is exactly how they will eventually treat you. Hold that wisdom up against Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and the entire arc of their relationship makes a perfect, terrible kind of sense. And the Sarah Fosmo situation is not an isolated incident. It is part of a pattern stretching back nearly a decade. Think about it. Samantha Cohen, Sarah Lam, Catherine Quinn, Christian Jones. The list of senior staff who have walked away from the Sussex household reads like a directory of former diplomatic talent. Person after person, hired with great fanfare, then quietly leaving within a year, sometimes within months. Some left in tears. Some left through gritted teeth. Some left under non-disclosure agreements that may never be fully lifted. And the common thread, told off the record by every single one of them, is the same single word: toxic. Now ask yourself, when every house guest leaves complaining about the smell, the problem is not the guests. The problem is the house. Tick-tock. Sarah Fosmo will not escape unscathed. The clock is also ticking on how long she will continue to work in that household. But hey, Prince Harry, this is the bed you have made. How does it feel to lie in it? Comfortable? Probably not. Now, let us turn to a piece of investigative reporting that has detonated like a bomb in royal circles this very week. A respected American magazine editor by the name of Dan Wakeford has spent 3 full weeks investigating Prince Harry and Meghan Markle from the inside. 3 weeks of conversations with people inside their world, trying to understand the career crisis, the much speculated financial issues, and what, if anything, can be done to fix them. And the report he has just released is genuinely jaw-dropping. The context matters, because Dan Wakeford was once one of the architects of the polished Sussex narrative. He was the editor of People magazine during the famous cover where Meghan Markle's so-called friends supposedly revealed the truth about her, which, of course, was not the actual truth at all, because the entire narrative was carefully constructed. The pitch of the article was that she was a genuinely lovely woman, victimized by everyone around her. He also published the leaked letter Meghan Markle sent to her father. Then, after moving to Us Weekly, Dan Wakeford attempted to turn the magazine into a propaganda sheet for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, mimicking what People magazine had been doing. It did not work. The ratings dropped. The readers walked away. And in a story that broke just this week, Us Weekly has now announced that they are slashing 50% of their staff and closing their office. 50%. Half the staff gone. Now, to be fair, print magazines are dying everywhere. Mainstream media is collapsing globally. So the entire downsizing cannot be pinned on Sussex-related content alone. But the public clearly rejected the idea of Us Weekly becoming the new People magazine, pushing the Sussex narrative. Dan Wakeford has now gone independent. And here is the remarkable thing about independent journalism. When mainstream figures finally cut ties with the corporate machine, they suddenly become free to tell the truth. And this 3-week deep dive into the Sussex marriage, finances, and career trajectory is striking in its honesty. Look at what was uncovered. The finances are not what the headlines suggest. The supposedly $100 million Netflix deal? Never $100 million. The supposedly $20 million Spotify deal? Never $20 million. The inheritance that Princess Diana left for Prince Harry, that famous nest egg, is reportedly mostly gone. Their outgoings are enormous. Security bills, multiple mortgages, and legal fees estimated at $38 million. $38 million in legal fees. Just sit with that number. That is what Prince Harry's litigation crusade has actually cost him. The television projects are also not what the press releases claim. The scripted polo drama, sources say, will likely never see the light of day. The production model is broken. Industry insiders suggest that the Sussex name now actively detracts from a project rather than helping to sell it. Other sources dispute this, but the trend appears clear. Many see them as toxic to producers, toxic to investors, and toxic to executives. Then there is the personal side. And this is where the reporting becomes genuinely chilling. They have had massive staff cuts. They are now, in the words of multiple sources, two people who are deeply unhappy. Two people with goals that have quietly diverged in ways that may be impossible to reconcile. Read that line again. Goals that have diverged in ways that may be impossible to reconcile. 5 separate sources inside their world contributed to this report. And the conclusion from every single one of them is the same. There is something fundamentally shifting beneath the surface. There is only one move left, one play, one desperate strategy that could save Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. But every instinct they have will resist making it. The move is to disappear. To genuinely step away from the public eye for a sustained period of time, to let the noise die down, and only then attempt a quiet relaunch. But, of course, they will never do that, because attention is the oxygen they breathe. There is something deeply ironic about watching the corporate media slowly, painfully arrive at a conclusion that independent royal journalism reached almost 2 years ago. Multiple investigative reporters across the United Kingdom and the United States have already written it. Independent journalists have been ahead of the mainstream by a country mile. And what stings about this latest revelation is the question of whether it represents a genuine return to honest reporting, or simply a savvy commercial pivot now that the wind has changed direction. The honest answer is probably somewhere in the middle. Take Charlotte Griffiths, editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday. She had to fight her way through a court case with Prince Harry. And when the Facebook messages surfaced, proving she had been right all along, that there had clearly been a relationship, even an intimate one, as some might say, suddenly people believed her, not him. Since then, she has been far more willing to speak openly. So part of the analysis says, the more people who arrive at the truth, the better. But the other part, the part deeply familiar with how access journalism works, says something very different. Access journalism is a poison. It means you simply pick up the phone, accept whatever the celebrity tells you, and print it. And in the process, You trample over the journalists who actually risked their careers reporting the truth from the very beginning. For the last 8 years, the truth has been there in plain sight. The Sussexes have denied stories time and time again, and then suddenly, the truth emerges, and the early reporters are vindicated, often without acknowledgement. Take a perfect example from this very week. Hugo Vickers, a respected royal historian and a close confidant of the late Queen Elizabeth II, has just released a book in which he claims that the Queen herself was concerned that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle might have been wearing recording devices during private family conversations. Wearing wires, as in secretly recording her, as in potentially setting her up for a future media moment. Royal correspondents reported that exact same claim back in 2020. At the time, those reporters were dismissed as conspiracy theorists. They were called unhinged. They were accused of making it all up, even though the information was said to be well-sourced from within royal circles. Even though, and this is the part that continues to surprise many, there were photographs circulating that appeared to show Prince Harry and Meghan Markle wearing recording equipment at certain events. There was pictorial evidence, and still those early reporters were dismissed. Now Hugo Vickers prints it in a hardcover book, and suddenly everyone nods knowingly. But here is the critical point. The more people who move toward the truth, the better. Because what this week has demonstrated, undeniably, is that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's allies in the American mainstream media have been reduced to almost nothing. Just 2 outlets remain firmly in their corner: People magazine and Town and Country. That is essentially it. Add to that Vanity Fair, where Sussex contacts are said to have a direct line to a specific individual, and Town and Country, where they reportedly maintain a comfortable connection. There are also a handful of suspicious Instagram accounts cropping up, like Royal Style Watch and others, pushing aggressively pro-Sussex content. These accounts deserve scrutiny. They appear almost overnight, with polished branding and uniformly positive coverage. Coincidence? Unlikely. And that currency of trust, the trust between an honest reporter and a thoughtful audience, is more valuable today than ever before. Because the corporate media is collapsing in slow motion right before our eyes. The traditional gatekeepers are losing their grip. Magazines are folding. Newspapers are shrinking. Cable news is bleeding viewers by the millions. And in that vacuum, in this new media landscape, the people who win, the only people who win, are those who remained honest when everyone else was selling propaganda. The Sussex machine has spent so much time, money, and legal firepower trying to silence honest reporting precisely because honest reporting is the one threat they cannot defeat with a press release. Now, turn to one of the most undercovered royal stories of the entire week: King Charles III's address to the nation, recorded in the library at Balmoral. It was a moment that deserved far more attention than it received. The silence from major news organizations was deafening, and the address itself was striking, a king openly pushing back against his critics. The voices calling for abdication, citing the Prince Andrew scandal and concerns over his own declining health. In the pre-recorded video, filmed in the beautiful Balmoral Library, you can see just how much his health appears to have been affected: the drawn face, the slight tremor in his voice. And yet, this address was King Charles III making one thing absolutely clear: no, I am not abdicating. He aligned himself with his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, and her philosophy: there will be no abdication. Period. And there is something to genuinely respect about the boldness of that stance, even if one disagrees with it. Listen to his words. Much about the times we now live in, I suspect, may have troubled her deeply. But I take heart from her belief that goodness will always prevail, and that a brighter dawn is never far from the horizon. I renew my own solemn pledge of duty and service to you all. God bless you, darling Mama. You remain forever in our hearts and prayers. This is only the 3rd time, outside of his Christmas messages, that King Charles III has delivered a broadcast of this nature. The first came just 2 days after the death of Queen Elizabeth II. So this moment carries enormous historical weight, and the message was crystal clear: I am not abdicating. I refuse to abdicate. The deeper question, however, still lingers. What would be truly compelling is if King Charles III became a stronger monarch and followed the example of his mother, always protecting the crown. And sometimes, protecting the crown means making difficult decisions. Look at the example of Queen Margrethe II of Denmark. One day, she simply announced that only her eldest son and his children would retain royal titles. It came as a shock to the rest of the family, but her reasoning was clear: it would ultimately make their lives better. At first, there was tension. But they are family, they came back together. And now, Denmark is often seen as a model of modern monarchical sustainability. That is what King Charles III needs to do. Make the hard call. Trim the excess. Slim down the institution while he still has the strength to do it. Because if he leaves the problem for Prince William, then Prince William will inherit not just a crown, but a full-scale public relations crisis, with the name Sussex attached to it. The problem, of course, is that it is incredibly difficult to commit to such a massive structural overhaul while simultaneously undergoing intense cancer treatment on a weekly basis. And yet, the sympathy for King Charles III is real. Look at the man. He has endured brutal treatment. He is fighting a serious illness. And still, he remains one of the most active monarchs modern Britain has seen in years. Show me another monarch in modern history who has worked this hard while this unwell. You cannot. And the world is about to see all of that on full display next week. The state visit to the United States, 2 days in Washington, a major day in New York, and a final stop in Virginia, followed by a solo trip to Bermuda without Queen Camilla. Every moment will be scrutinized. Every handshake, every glance, every word. And all of this unfolds against the backdrop of Prince Harry's Ukraine speech, his criticism of the Trump administration, and what some see as an attempt to overshadow his own father during one of the most important diplomatic moments of the reign. This state visit becomes more than just a tour. It becomes a referendum on whether King Charles III can hold the line. Picture the optics for a moment. A 77-year-old monarch, his hair thinned by treatment, his eyes carrying the weight of countless difficult conversations, stepping down the staircase of a British military aircraft onto American soil, cameras flashing, honor guards saluting, the President of the United States waiting just beyond the red carpet, and in the background of every photograph, the ghostly presence of a younger son, 3,000 miles away, doing his very best to upstage the moment. That is the image the world will see. That is the story being written in real time. Behind every public smile this week, King Charles III is fighting battles on multiple fronts. The Prince Andrew situation continues to quietly bleed into the headlines, with new revelations expected from civil filings later this year. The succession question involving Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, lingers in the background, with both reportedly being briefed for a potentially accelerated transition if the king's health deteriorates further. Across the Commonwealth, particularly in the Caribbean, Republican movements are watching closely, testing the waters of a post-Charles era. And of course, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, ever opportunistic, are positioned to exploit any perceived weakness for personal and commercial gain. This is a 1,000-year-old institution navigating a moment of intense and concentrated pressure. King Charles III has, in many ways, become the seawall holding back multiple storms at once. And even as seawall eventually begins to crack. The reported withdrawal of the Sandringham invitation is not just palace gossip. It is a calculated decision. It is the king choosing, finally, to stop expending energy on the storm he cannot control, and instead focus on the storms he can. It is triage. It is realism. And in its own quiet way, it may be one of the most decisive actions of his reign so far. And the message it sends to Prince Harry could not be clearer. The door that has been held open for years, however reluctantly, is now closed. Not because King Charles III does not love his son. He almost certainly still does, in that complicated, painful way that fathers love children who break their hearts. But because the king has finally accepted what many royal observers have long believed. There is no productive negotiation with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Every olive branch becomes a press release. Every act of grace becomes a marketing opportunity. Every quiet kindness becomes raw material for the next interview, the next book, the next product launch. The Sussex Empire is now buckling under the weight of its own contradictions. They wanted privacy, then sold their privacy. They wanted independence, then sought state-funded security. They wanted to escape royal life, yet continuously tried to remain central to it. They wanted to define themselves outside the institution, yet every commercial venture leans on the Duchess, or Prince, title for credibility. The architecture of their lives is built on a contradiction so fundamental that it could never hold indefinitely. And now, it is beginning to collapse in on itself. Which brings us to the next chapter. Back to the present moment. The breath before the state visit, the calm that always settles just before the storm of an enormous diplomatic engagement. The king has said no to Sandringham. He has said no to abdication. He has said yes to a punishing American itinerary, and yes to renewing his pledge of service. In every visible way, the man is choosing to spend the remaining time of his reign defending the institution rather than placating its dissenters. That is the choice of a sovereign. That is the choice of a king. And when history eventually writes this chapter, it will likely judge him kindly for it. Meanwhile, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are running out of room, out of money in the practical sense, out of credibility in the cultural sense, out of allies in the journalistic sense, out of patience from the institution they once tried to pressure for their own gain, and out of options for any meaningful return to the center of public life. The ladders are being kicked away one by one. The bridges are being burned faster than they can be rebuilt. And the public, the most fickle audience in the world, is moving on. Imagine it from their side for a moment, sitting in a sun-drenched mansion in Montecito, watching the American media slowly turn cold, watching production deals dry up, watching staff resign in waves, watching the marriage strain under the impossible weight of two competing visions of the future, watching their children grow up in a strange limbo between American privacy and British royal status. And now, watching the door at Sandringham close with a final, definitive click. What do they do next? That is the question that will define the next chapter of this saga. There are only a few real options. They could take the advice that even their friendliest allies have been quietly giving them and disappear for a year or two, genuinely vanish, reset the entire narrative, and eventually return with a different story to tell. But this would require humility, patience, and a willingness to sit in obscurity, qualities the Sussexes have never clearly displayed. Or they could double down, pursue another major media moment, another interview, another book, another documentary. They could scorch what remains of their bridges in a final act of public confrontation. But every previous attempt at this strategy has produced diminishing returns. The Oprah Winfrey moment was their peak. Spare was a step down. The Netflix series was another step down again. American Riviera Orchard barely registered. Each subsequent attempt at attention has generated less impact than the last. Returning to that well may produce nothing but echoes. Or, and this is the option nobody discusses in polite royal circles, they could quietly fracture. The reporting from inside their world has now made it explicit. Two people, wildly unhappy, with goals impossible to reconcile. That is not the language of a couple in love facing the world together. That is the language of a couple in slow-motion separation. If that is where this story is heading, then everything we are watching now is simply the public version of a private collapse. The state visit, the Ukraine speech, the Australia tour, the trauma closet, the legal fees, any of it could be the surface manifestation of something far more intimate and far more painful happening beneath the polished public veneer. And the institution, the 1,000-year-old monarchy, will absorb whatever happens. It always does. It has survived plagues, revolutions, abdications, divorces, and scandals across centuries. It will survive this too. The question is not whether the monarchy survives. The question is what shape it takes on the other side of this storm. A leaner monarchy, a more focused monarchy, a monarchy that has finally learned that sentiment is not the same as strategy, and that family loyalty has limits when the institution itself is at stake. The next 48 hours will be electric. The king will leave for America. The cameras will follow every step. The world will watch. And in the background of every frame, the shadow of a younger son, 3,000 miles away, will be visible to anyone paying attention. The story is approaching its climax. The chapters are being written faster than anyone can read them. And the final shape of the British royal family for the next 20 years is being decided right now, in real time, by a sick king finally finding his strength. Because the king has finally said no. The Sandringham door is closed. The state visit is about to begin. Meanwhile, the Meghan Markle and Prince Harry brand appears to be under intense pressure, financial strains mounting beyond what press releases have suggested, and, according to insiders, a marriage approaching a potential breaking point. American media allies are evaporating one by one. And next week, when King Charles III steps off the plane in Washington, the entire world will be watching to see how a sick king handles a hostile son, a charged political moment, and the most important diplomatic visit of his reign. There is one chapter left to write, and it is being written in real time over the next 48 hours. Stay close. Pay attention. Because the next move in this royal endgame, the move that decides everything, is coming faster than anyone is prepared for. The king has chosen his side. The institution has chosen its future. The world is watching. Not casually, not passively, but intensely, like something historic is about to unfold. Because this is no ordinary royal moment. This is a turning point. As King Charles III prepares to land in Washington, the stakes have never been higher. A sick king, carrying the full weight of a 1,000-year-old institution, stepping into one of the most politically charged moments of his reign. And yet, this isn't just about diplomacy. This is personal. Because somewhere, 3,000 miles away, stands his son, Prince Harry. A prince who walked away. A son who chose a different path. A story that refuses to fade. And beside him, Meghan Markle, once the most talked about woman in the world, now at the center of a narrative that's beginning to shift. For years, they controlled the spotlight, the interviews, the headlines, the global attention. But something has changed. The momentum is slipping. The deals aren't landing like they used to. The media, once supportive, is growing colder. And the audience is slowly moving on. This isn't just a slowdown. This feels like a turning tide. Because behind the headlines, behind the polished statements, there's a different story unfolding. A story of pressure, of expectations, of two visions that may no longer align. What happens when the narrative you built starts to collapse? What happens when the doors you once walked away from are no longer open? Because back in the UK, the message is clear. The Sandringham door is closed. Not temporarily, not symbolically, but decisively. And for the first time, King Charles III is no longer trying to balance family and crown. He has chosen. The institution comes first. Boys, this is what monarchies do. They survive. Through scandals, through betrayals, through generations of conflict. And they don't bend forever. So now the question becomes, what happens next? Do Prince Harry and Meghan Markle step back, disappear, and rebuild? Or do they make one final move, one last attempt to take control of the narrative? Because history has shown us something important. Every comeback gets weaker. Every revelation hits softer. And every spotlight fades, eventually. Meanwhile, the king steps forward. Into the cameras. Into the pressure. Into history. And in that moment, everything changes. Because this isn't just another royal story. This is the endgame. The final shape of the monarchy is being decided right now. And when the dust settles, only one side will define the future. And the Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, exiled, isolated, financially squeezed, and professionally stranded, are being left to face the consequences of every choice they have made over the past 6 years. Alone, without the protection of the crown. Without the indulgence of a forgiving father. Without the handrails of an institution that no longer trusts them. And, finally, without the audience that once made them feel invincible. The story is ending. The fall is in motion.